Disclosure, or deciding to tell people at work about your arthritis, is a personal decision that can be complicated and, at times, stressful. Many people find that they can manage their arthritis symptoms at work most of the time. However, sometimes pain and fatigue can flare up and impact your performance. If you're worried about the effect that arthritis is having on your ability to do your job, you might want to think about whether or not to disclose to your employer. Disclosing some information about your needs could mean that you have more options to help keep you healthy and productive, such as a different workspace, a more flexible schedule, or access to assistive devices, such as an alternative keyboard or a non-skid rubber mat. Disclosure could also mean more social support from your coworkers and supervisor. On the other hand, disclosure can carry certain risks and may lead to being treated differently by your employer or colleagues. You might worry that people will think you can't do your job or pass you over for a promotion. While legislation like the Ontario Human Rights Code and the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act 2005 exists to protect people with disabilities in the workplace, including people with chronic conditions like arthritis, you may still experience challenges. It's important to weigh the benefits of disclosure against the possible risks. To request an accommodation, you aren't required to provide information about your diagnosis, only about your functional limitations and related needs. You may be asked to produce a note from a medical professional detailing these needs. If you do decide to talk about your arthritis or accommodation needs at work, do your homework first. Figure out the best person to talk to. Is it your boss, a human resources or HR staff member, or a union rep? A human resources staff member can help facilitate an accommodation plan with your supervisor and serve as a neutral party to help manage the relationship between you and your boss. If you don't have an HR department, you can also approach your boss directly, who can work with you to determine an accommodation plan that meets your needs. Your boss can keep some information confidential, though they may need to discuss your disclosure and accommodation plan with others involved in its implementation. If you feel comfortable enough, you might decide to disclose your health condition to some or all of your coworkers. Depending on your colleagues, this could lead to greater understanding and support, or it could potentially lead to gossip or feelings of resentment. You might find it helpful to clear the air if others are noticing a change in your performance, or you might feel it's a private matter and none of their business. An accommodation plan is an arrangement made between you and your employer, and you don't need to discuss it with others if you're not comfortable. If the benefits of disclosure outweigh the risks for you and you've decided who to talk to, next decide on identifying 2 or 3 key messages. This will make it easier for your employer to understand your specific needs and what accommodations might help you in your role. What do you want to tell your employer about your condition or accommodation needs? Be clear on what you're asking. For example, give the other person suggestions about what will help you work more effectively or efficiently. You might want to do this in writing to keep it documented. An accommodation plan may also require some negotiation or compromise. While you're entitled to request disability-related accommodations, you're not necessarily entitled to receive the accommodation you'd prefer if there's another solution that can meet your needs. Staying open to suggestions and being willing to problem solve can help you and your employer arrive at a solution that works well for everyone. Understand your rights as an employee. In Ontario, the Ontario Human Rights Code protects people with disabilities from discrimination and harassment in employment and other areas. There's also the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act 2005, or AODA. The AODA has several requirements under the Accessible Employment Standard, which employers need to follow. An employer with 1 or more employees must 1. Create and use an accessible recruitment process. Employers need to notify potential job applicants that accommodations for individuals with disabilities are available on request. This can be done in the job posting, on the employer's website, and in offers of employment. 2. Ensure accessible workplace information. At an employee's request, an employer must provide workplace information in an accessible format. This could include any information that employees need to do their job. 3. Take the needs of employees with disabilities into account in existing talent and performance management processes. This can include performance reviews, advancement opportunities, or job transfers. These processes don't need to be created if an employer doesn't already have them in place. 4. Ensure clear communication about policies. Employers must tell existing and new employees about the policies that are used to support employees with disabilities. If there's a change in the policy, employers must also let employees know. In addition to those requirements, for business or not-for-profit organizations with 50 employees or more, or in the public sector, employers must also ensure that they have 5. A documented accommodation plan process, and 6. A return-to-work process. For more information about these requirements, visit the Government of Ontario's Accessible Workplaces information on their website. When it comes to deciding whether or not to talk about your arthritis or its impact at work, there is no one-size-fits-all approach. Either way, it's important to make sure you have supports in place to help you manage your arthritis. Take the time to figure out what's best for you and what might be helpful to keep you active and productive at work. For additional support and resources, visit the Arthritis Society's website at arthritis.ca.